Welcome to 52 Weeks of Hope. This is where you get to hear how to feel happy, balanced, and worthwhile, how to make that lonely ache vanish and feel empowered, confident, and secure. I'm Lauren Abrams, and I get to help you feel that magic again since going through my own dark night of the soul by chatting with incredible leaders, healers, and change agents who give you their message of hope after overcoming challenges of their own. And today we're talking to leadership coach and entrepreneur, Anjua Maximo. Today, I'm so excited to really get talking and get you to your higher vibrations and your whole inspired and freest self. Do you know you're meant for something greater, but something's holding you back? You're going to love this episode because Anjua is going to help you move past life's obstacles and take you into the magic of your purpose. Learn how to turn off your inner critic and bring your vision to life right now. Welcome to 52 Weeks of Hope, Anjua.
Thank you so much, Lauren. This is awesome. What a great intro.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I love learning about you. And I listened to your first podcast episode, which is so funny because you're like, it's January 2021. We made it. We made it through 2020. And I'm like laughing, going, yeah, we did. And you're like, that was a lot. I'm thinking, yeah. And here we are a few years later.
It's such a crazy thing. I know, like when you look back that now we can actually reflect back as the pandemic was something that happened. So now to even know that you heard that, and now I'm going to laugh because when I hear that episode again, I'm like, where was I at that point? Coming out of the fog.
You're like, hey, and you're like, and here's what I'm going to wish for you. And here's what I'm going to, and it's just so interesting because you're like, and I'm going to live in my truth. And I can't even just meeting you now, I can't imagine you ever not living in your truth.
Oh, I've had a lot of practice, honestly, in living in my truth because it's really interesting. I'm of a generation of, I was just talking about this with a client, a generation that came up with the whole children should be seen and not heard. You didn't have an opinion. You weren't allowed. And my mother was very strong. She was a wonderful mom, wonderful dad, but they were very strong, opinionated people. And it was very much like, we're the parent, you do as I say. And I think when you have that kind of an upbringing, you naturally just learn to just appease, go with the program, go with the flow, don't make waves. I was really into being a good girl. And all those things lend itself to you swallowing your truth because the truth would then make people uncomfortable. So when I say I've had practice, both swallowing and learning how to spit it out, I mean it. I do.
That's so interesting because I'm older than you and I was taught to be children are to be seen and not heard also. And I'm from the DC area. I know your father was from DC. He would fly back there a lot. And so how did you learn to start speaking your truth and to have a voice and to know what's really going on? And I think that's always so interesting because I like Google feelings chart still sometimes ago. We didn't talk about our feelings growing up. So I'll Google feelings chart and go, it's that one. Because sometimes I'm not really sure. My kids amaze me. I'm so impressed. They'll be like, this is overwhelming. Give me a minute, mom. I'll be like,
oh, they're so good about that. They're so good. On their mood meter, they're like, I'm feeling this today. I'm feeling that. I just don't feel like it. I'm like, oh, wow, that's amazing.
So impressed.
I am so impressed with them. I learn a lot from them. I have to say, I think the realization of really understanding that I was not living my truth or not being my full self happened when I first got my first dose of personal development. And that actually happened working at Lululemon. So I worked at Lululemon Athletica for a long time. Yep, I did. And I actually became a manager for them too. So they were the first ones that ever talked to me about goals. They were the first ones who ever talked to me about a stingy voice in your head, about not taking action, about not speaking your truth. And I was just like, what is this stuff? Like, I'd never heard about this stuff before. They sent me to development seminars for free. So I was really getting this massive dose. They had a whole library of development books that you had access to. So this was the first time that all these light bulbs start going off. And I start making connections and I start seeing, this is why you do what you do. Oh, this is why you get afraid of this. And this is why you pull back. And then you start observing yourself. And I think once you actually just have an inkling that something is off, and then you actually get the tools to start to sit outside of yourself a little bit, then it really gets interesting, right? Now you're observing how I behave in the presence of certain men who I see as authority figures. My voice gets higher. Okay, so I was like, oh, I'm noticing this. I start to panic. I don't breathe in certain situations. I would notice that if I'm in a confrontational thing, even though I'm a Scorpio, and by nature, supposedly, we love confrontation and conflict, that's not the case with me. I will get into it with you. I am very much do no harm, take no shit. But at the same time, I don't go seeking conflict. I will be a justice fighter all the time. But when it comes to fighting for myself, I found that I was not
Yeah,
as
I'm like
aggressive.
that
So you
too.
just,
Yeah,
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 you're
yeah.
just kind of observing yourself and you're sitting here going, I don't like that. And I don't want to be this way. And now I'm learning that there's other ways I can show up. And here's why, and here's what I got to do to do it. So that was the beginning. To say that it was all crystal after that would be a lie, because this is all trial and error. It's all trial and error. You know,
Yeah.
you're not going to get it right a lot in the
No.
beginning.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely not. It's all peeling the onion anyway, like getting it.
all of it. And it's still being peeled, because even as I'm
Yeah.
approaching 50, and really I think too that it comes with the age. So at 40, I started noticing that I started giving a lot less of a shit about what people think. And I think we
Yeah.
hear this a lot from women as they get older. You start to just not give a fuck anymore. And
Yeah.
you're like, why do I care? Why was I covering my legs up for years, worried about varicose veins and cellulite? Because I really thought somebody cared. Like, why did I really rob myself of like years in the sun with my legs out? Because you start to just really see how ridiculous some of this is. So that was an opening, but then to do the work is something else. And that takes practice and patience and compassion. And there's been plenty of times when I've been disappointed in myself. I've been frustrated. I should have spoke up. I could have done this better. You just got to be easy with yourself, get up and try again.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So
Yeah.
here you are, you get exposed to self-help and personal development space and everything at Lululemon, where then what's your next exposure?
Oh,
Is it?
okay. So prior to that, it was almost an accidental exposure. I was pole dancing. Okay. And I had discovered this pole dancing studio in LA. My trainer, I was an actor back then. So I was doing the whole, you have a trainer, you bartend at night, the
Yeah.
thing. And I went to this great class the other night. It was pole dancing. It was so fun. It's like this new thing that's happening now. So I was like, I like strip clubs. I'm a newlywed. This could be fun. So I go into this room. Fast forward to me falling in love with this. Fast forward to me becoming a teacher. Now, there was personal development happening in the studio, but I don't think we really realized the magnitude that it was happening, nor were we necessarily all always equipped as instructors to deal with the emotional aspect of what was happening for these women. So that technically would be my first foray into coaching others, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing. Okay. I
Mhm.
wasn't doing it intentionally. I'm just there to hold space and be a guide and whatever, but things were happening. Now Lululemon comes, they introduced me to personal development. I start seeing, oh, that's what's happening in this room. These women are having these discoveries, these epiphanies. This is why it's happening. They're giving me the information as to what the gremlin voice is, where the insecurities have come from, how the indoctrination happens, the conditioning, how it's now manifesting through their body. And I'm like, light bulbs are going off. I leave Lululemon. I leave that studio. I moved to Cleveland. I'm giving like Cliff Notes abbreviated versions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And while at Lululemon, I recognized I want to do this. It's helping me tremendously in real time. I'm applying these things. I feel my personal growth. And as you do, and you know this, once you know something, all of a sudden you start wanting to tell everybody about what you
Yeah. Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Of course. Yep.
I wanted to buy the 4 agreements for everybody in my family. I was
Yeah.
like, everybody's getting this for Christmas, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You start reading books, you
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
read this, you gotta read, and they're like, all right, with all your stuff, right? Gotta go to Landmark, you gotta go do this. So I recognized that this was impactful work to what I was already doing with women. And I wanted to do more of it. And I wanted to see more women really start, because my relationship to women changed when I started teaching the pole dancing. I really became, not that I wasn't a champion of women before, but I very much was of that mindset that I don't have a lot of female friends. It's difficult. They're jealous. It's tricky. It can get complicated. It's easier to have less female friends. It's ridiculous, but that's where my mind was. Starting to work with women in a studio that was predominantly women with all women students, I had no choice but to really face those sister wounds head on and recognize where they were coming from. So I really then became just huge champion of women, fell in love with us, and just wanted to see us like flourish. So that really became my motivation
So
for
how did you
becoming the
find
light.
out? So let's back up for just 1 second for anybody who's
Yeah.
listening. So where did those come from? How did you discover that? Where your old ideas, or maybe they were limiting beliefs or whatever it was,
Yeah.
of, oh, you can't trust women, or you weren't friends with women, or
Ooh. that's friendship stuff. That's teenagers. That's your best friends betraying you. That's finding out that the girl you thought was your friend was actually talking about you behind your back or trying to hit on your boyfriend. You're away at college. There were a number of instances where I felt like it never would occur to me to be different to my friends. In a sense, I think I grew up with this very much idea that I was very much like a fawn and I was very gullible, it seemed. So in my mind, I didn't trust my intuition also early on because it seemed that
Okay.
everybody I thought was for me always had an agenda, right? Or even my best friend and I, best friend meaning I met her when I was 10, like we're still friends now. She and I had a few falling outs because there were moments where I felt like, hey, you didn't stand up for me or you didn't do this. So I think it just started to create this place of distrust. Can I really trust her? Is there a motive? Or when I did trust, then it was like, okay, I'm dealing with maybe a narcissist, or I'm dealing with a woman who's just going to completely center herself in everything. So now she wants me. There was always something. Or I'm dealing with a woman who has massive insecurity. So every time we got dressed to go out, she was always complimenting me, but downing herself. And it was like all these instances of me not understanding what the energy was, me not understanding how to be empathetic to what was happening, how to actually see myself in the center of it, how my own insecurities were playing into some of this. So really, it was just beginning relationships that didn't, I think, really paint a solid picture of what it could be to be amongst women that were actually grounded in who they were and comfortable and accepting of you and not intimidated by your energy. I learned to dim my light very early because of my interaction with women.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You come in the room and you just learn to actually pull it back.
I
So
can't
as not to
imagine you with a
create.
dim light either.
Ooh, I got called out by a
Yeah.
teacher in acting class. Lauren called me out. I walked in one day and he calls me over. He said, come over here for a second. I want to talk to you. He said, I watch you walk in here every Wednesday for class. And every Wednesday you walk in, this bright light, crown is up, looking like a total star. And then the minute you cross the threshold, you go, oh, why are you doing that?
Okay, so
And I
most
said,
people are probably listening. So what? Just so you know, that Anjua just made a visual demonstration of dimming light. Okay, go ahead.
yes, like light being sucked back in.
You like the way
Exactly.
I just did my lawyerly? Go ahead. Yeah.
I appreciate that so much because as a podcast host, there's been a number of times that visuals are happening. I'm like, I've never thought to be like, she's pulling out a large phallic, whatever is happening in my podcast. So anyway, but yeah, so he noted that and he asked me, why do I do that? And I said to him, honestly, I do it to make other people comfortable. And what are you talking about? Why? And I said, because women don't like me sometimes if I'm just too confident or I'm not unassuming enough. Like I've had that, or it draws too much attention from men unwantedly sometimes. So I just learned to just pull it in. And he's like, I really need you to never do that ever again. Like you have to stop. And it really became a theme for me battling that, to walk in with my crown up and my heart open and not see it as a need to, and even when women to feel them start to pull back, instead of me pulling back, me reach out.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Reach out. Yeah. I'm okay. And you're okay. We can be okay in this space together. Keep smiling with me. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, that was so good. Yay. Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad I asked and I'm glad you shared that. Yeah. Okay. So here you are in Cleveland.
And
yeah. Yeah.
We had a little laugh about that before. How the hell do you get from New York to LA to Cleveland?
Yeah.
Yeah. Circumstances brought my family here. And my partner had an opportunity to work here. And there was a Lululemon here who was still working at the time. And I thought, well, I'll bring pole dancing to Cleveland. I'll bring sensual movement to Cleveland. Terrified to do so because I knew nothing of Cleveland. I'd moved here sight unseen. I literally just got on a plane. He had already chosen a place to live. And I brought my kids and I only had one son at the time. And it was like, okay, we're doing this. But I definitely thought, God, this is a very conservative city. It feels compared to LA. In my mind, I had the idea that I was going to do this, but it definitely took a long time because of fear that it was going to be rejected, fear that women were going to reject it, fear that it was going to be seen as too much for this area. They'll poo it or they'll run me out of town or anything like that. And that didn't happen exactly. So I opened our studio. We actually opened a micro boutique gym here that became wildly popular. And Groove Ride still stands. I opened next door. It was like this weird hybrid. We had a cycle studio that was co-ed, and then we had a pole dancing studio that was women only on the other side. And it was joined by a bathroom. So I would joke, I'd see women coming for cycle who had no idea that the pole dancing was happening. They'd open up the wrong door to go back in. It was like Alice in Wonderland. You'd see them, they'd be like, oh, shut the door. I'm like, no, come in. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. But I say that because my fear actually, I do believe, to be completely honest, did not allow enough breath into that part of the studio, the pole dancing part. And because of my fear, and for numerous reasons, there was some fear, but the main fear of it being rejected actually, I believe, did not give it the running start it needed in the beginning. And it's funny because I've been here now for 11, 12 years, and I have been teaching the sensual movement again, committed to it for the last 7. And it's almost as if they're now all finding me, but I've been here for the whole time. And now it seems like women are more accepting of it. They're ready to hear it, because there was a lot of convincing I had to do back then. There were still women who were like, I want to talk about it with you, but I'm afraid. What is it that you do? Oh, a lot of teachers asking my son, so what does your mom do? She's a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
Sure. She's a Pilates instructor. I am all those things too.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of curiosity, but still so much fear to actually come through the door. And now they're like, I need this. I want this. Teach me how to roll my hips. Teach me how to touch my body. Teach me how to be in this. But it's all timing. So now is
definitely.
the time.
It's everything is always timing, and it all unfolds as it's supposed to. Definitely. You teach people to stop their inner critic. And because I'm sure people walk in and they're like, I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. I can't dance. Or self-conscious of their body and their movement, and to just get out of their head and to get out of their head.
Yeah. I always tell my students, not just in here with you, I'm in here with you, your parents' values, your grandparents, possibly the pastor, the rabbi, the priest, everybody's in here. And I'm trying to get to Lauren.
Yeah.
And be like, Lauren believe. So we really have to address the head. We have to address the head even before we get to the body stuff, right? And the head is where we're housing all the stories. The head is where we're housing all the misconceptions, the conditioning, the ideas that something is supposed to be true, but it's actually not. It's just what's true for the person who taught you. The first place I go is here, and I help them understand we need to now start to distinguish where's your voice, and where's the voice of what you grew up hearing. Which one is you actually and what you believe, and which one is just you echoing what you heard your mom say or your dad say about women who do a certain thing or act a certain way or dress a certain way. Okay. I don't think we recognize how insidious is the word I'm going to use, media can be, music, all these things that paint a picture of what a goddess is supposed to be like, or what a sexy woman is supposed to look like, what she's supposed to dress or behave. And because we have such limited 2-dimensional ideas of sexuality, sensuality, what a sexy, self-possessed woman looks like, what an empowered goddess looks like, that we don't even see ourselves in that. So how can I be any of those things? So it really takes the time for me to have to sit with them and go, I need you to understand that this is all made up. And it was just made up. It's all made up. There is nothing here that indicates that a goddess needs to look a certain way, dress a certain way. I have women who come to my class that may be lesbian, that may have more mask presenting energy. And they've often come and be like, do I have to wear the lingerie to feel like a goddess? I'm like, no, wear your boxers. I don't care. Wear whatever you want. Goddess is what makes you feel empowered in your body, period. It's not about flowing skirts. That's just the outside stuff. It's the energy within you. It is the belief in yourself. So then we work through the stories in the head, right? And I come from the coaching school of thought. That voice, which we call the gremlin in my school of thought, is actually a version of you from when you were small. And it's a version of you that learned something about the world and how you're viewed in the world, and then created a whole story about this. And generally now it has spent the entirety of your life trying to protect you in some really fucked up way. Like the overbearing mom who bubble wraps you before, have a great time, don't die, let me wrap you up, you're going to fall, but have fun. You know what I mean? So when I present it that way, it allows the student to now start to have a little bit of empathy for this voice. Because there's a lot of, I hate it. I want to kill it. I want to extract it. I want to beat it up. And I'm like, no, 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 no. First of all, it's not going anywhere. It's part of us, right? And when we want to do it that way, it's going to keep fighting back. But if we can have a little empathy for why it showed up in the first place, what it thinks it's protecting, and then remind it that you actually have it, you're not that same age anymore. You get to decide now who you are as a woman. That begins a different relationship to this voice. I have them name it to give take a little of the sting out. They usually come up with ridiculous names. There's a lot of Bertha and Godfried and weird names that they just would never hear in life, but it makes them laugh and smile, and it lightens it up a bit. But once we can get through here, then we can start to move into letting your body do something. But your body's going to be constantly interrupted if the gremlin is running its mouth saying you are this, that, and the other, too fat, too old, too this, too that, to be doing everything you're doing.
Yeah, there's actually a top 10 limiting beliefs. I just did an episode on limiting beliefs, and too old, I can't. I can't. Yeah, I know.
I hear that all the time.
I know,
I've been hearing it for years. And one of my most amazing, like, she was fabulous students, was like 65. That woman climbed that pole like a damn cat. She was amazing. The fiercest grandmother I've ever seen. It had nothing to do with her age. It was her energy.
Yeah.
Delicious.
It's always energy. And I took a class at UCLA, one of my undergrad classes, and that she coached Olympic athletes and everything. And it's all about the mind. It's what we tell ourselves. I've never forgotten it. So totally is. Now, how do you avoid the shiny object syndrome? Oh, what about this? I want to do this. I want to do that. And going after all kinds of different things.
You mean in life, just in general?
Yes.
That's really funny. You should say that. Okay. So what I have learned, I used to down myself because I am a shiny object chaser. I fall in love with a lot of things. I fall in love with people. I just love their energy. I fall in love with projects. I fall in love with books. And sometimes then I will put it down for a little while, walk away for a little while. I fall in love with meditation. Then I fall out of it. I used to think that was a bad thing. I used to think that it indicated something about me, that it may mean something about me, not being consistent, not being able to stick to something, not being disciplined. Then I did my human design. You're familiar with this? Okay. And it really helped me to understand my behaviors and choices as something that is part of who I am, but not a bad part of who I am. According to my human design, I am meant to catch the essence of life, like the fabric. I'm meant to do that and then alchemize it and make it into other things. I'm not necessarily meant to stick to one thing. And once I released myself from feeling that there was something wrong with that, and then even recognizing when it is, and then allowing myself to really sleep on things, which is, okay, but do you really want to do it? You really want to come on a podcast, or do you need to sleep on it? Get up, take a day and go, yeah, I still see you. I feel the fuck yes. I want to call Lauren back. I'm going to do this. Whereas before it would be like, yes, without thinking. And then I'm in all these things that I end up realizing I didn't want to do, or it wasn't actually what I thought it was going to be because I didn't take the time. So to me, it was normalizing that for myself. I also saw a wonderful TED Talk once, and I will write to you to tell you who it was. But essentially, this TED Talk was being delivered about shiny object syndrome and people who are jack of all trades. And the gist of it is that this could be also looked at as a great strength, because you know a little bit about everything is actually not a bad thing. That means you actually can contribute to many different conversations. You can contribute to different spaces and areas because you are knowledgeable about a lot of things. So those types of things, reframing it was helpful to me. Now, reframing it and then understanding how to manage it was the second piece, because it's not that I just let it go crazy. It's understanding when I need to let it run. And then when is it like, okay, sleep on this, rein it in. You don't actually need to take on that project. Just because you want to doesn't mean you need to. And that was a big one. Just because I love it doesn't mean I'm meant to do it. Just because I can do it doesn't mean I'm meant to do it. That's another thing. I'm good at a lot of things, but it doesn't mean I'm meant to do it. I could coach men. Absolutely, I could. Doesn't mean I'm meant to do it, though. I don't feel drawn to do it, so I don't have to do it.
So how did you get in touch with your own intuitive abilities?
How did I tap into my own intuitive abilities? It was the body work. It was the dancing. Yeah, absolutely. You are being called to slow down when you are in class with me. You're being called to feel your body, to feel your emotions. There's nowhere to run when you're slowing down and you're breathing and you're feeling. So now you start to understand, you start to see, you start to move through those things, right? And then you start to let go of having to know what's happening next, which means you start to trust that the body's going to take you where it needs to go. That kind of bond and relationship between body, soul, mind, this to me is what helps enhance you trust in your intuition. Your body, in my opinion, never lies. Your mind will fuck with you all day long, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Play games all day long with you, but your body is going to tell you, I don't like that. This doesn't feel good. Even if it is something like of a traumatic response, that it's still indicating there's something going on. It's telling you something. Your mind, craziness. You got the Greek chorus in there. You can't decide who's saying what, which voice is what. The body's, this isn't good or this is great. You start to learn what feels expansive. So I often ask my clients, how is your heart today? And don't just tell me fine. How does it feel? Well, it feels expansive, or it feels constricted. It feels tight, or it feels jittery. These things help you understand feelings, emotions, and then try to put words to it and understanding it.
Yeah, I was taught if it describes dinner, fine, good, whatever. It's not a feeling. Forget it. Yeah.
No.
How's your dinner?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's not a feeling. Forget that.
Yeah.
Let that one go.
Because when I'm talking to my clients, even when I will often ask them, even my life coaching clients, what is your body doing when that thought happens?
Yeah.
Or when that person comes in the room?
Yep.
Yeah. Because your body's going to tell you. So that's part of your intuition. Also, there's the idea that, yes, we have the third eye, right, between our eyebrows. But then there's also the notion that the sacral energy holds a great deal of wisdom. That actually is our center of knowing.
Yes.
But if we're locked up from it, shamed by our hips, afraid to move them. See, this is also what happens in class is they're rolling these hips. They're moving them around. Energy's moving. All of a sudden, truths are coming up. Tears are coming up. Realizations are coming up. Even anger comes up like, shit, I've been robbed of something. Yeah. Is that making sense? Is that resonating?
It completely makes sense. Yeah. Now, what would you tell somebody who knows that they want to do something, but they're afraid to take the leap to do it?
Oh my goodness. You got to get into what you're afraid of. You just got to straight up say it. I am afraid of what A, B, and C. And then you got to get into the truth of that. What really will happen? Generally, it's failure that stops a lot of people, right? I'm so afraid to fail at this. And then you got to just get into what have you made failure mean? What are you attaching it to? Who told you that? It always goes back to what did you learn? Where did you hear it from? Because it's generally the people around you that you've come up with, or the notions of what is society about people failing that are informing you. But the truth is, I love this one. I'm always talking about the Wright brothers. We wouldn't be flying in planes if these dudes just gave up after the first crashed multiple freaking times. There was even somebody else trying to do the same thing. They gave up. So to me, it's the willingness to reframe what failure looks like. It's the willingness to recognize that you won't know until you go and try it, and that you might fail at it, and that it's okay because you can just go look at it again, assess, is this meant for me? If it is, then how do I do it differently? What did I learn? It's just reframing the mindset around failure to me that we have to start doing for ourselves. Surrounding yourself with people who take chances, who aren't afraid to fall on their face, who do laugh about it, celebrate it. One thing I learned at Lululemon I loved till this day was putting up a failure board. Setting up a board and writing what your biggest fuck up was, right? What were the consequences of the fuck up and what did you learn? And then what will you do differently next time? So what are we celebrating?
Yeah. A celebratory board too. Yeah. You made it through. You made it
It's
through.
A great board. It's because you're trying. Here's the thing. I always ask my clients too, do you want to be, I want you to picture yourself living a long, beautiful life, right? And you're now 90 something years old and you are now ready to transition over. Do you want to reflect back on all the things you did, failures, wins, and just feel like you really did everything? Or do you want to sit and have nothing but regret for the things that you didn't? You won't even know what would have happened. What if? To me is the worst two words I do not want to leave this world with is what if.
Yeah.
Unless
Absolutely.
What if I did it? It's just like I did do it.
Yeah. Nobody ever on their deathbed wish they worked harder or made more money. You got to you got to take those actions.
Yeah.
Life's in session. You got to be out there.
It's not a dress rehearsal. It's all those things. And honestly, that kills me is that the people who are usually like the voices in your head of the folks that you think are going to say something, they're not even there at the end with you.
Yeah.
They've gone on with their lives. They're dealing with their own freak out failures and gremlins. They're not even thinking about you, but
nobody's thinking about you.
No.
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
That's the whole thing. No one is thinking about you, but here we are stopping ourselves from doing things because we're so afraid just to take a chance and fuck up.
Yeah. Do you have a message of hope you want to give?
Oh my gosh, message of hope. My message of hope, I always bring this back to nature. I'm going to say nature is my message of hope because nature, when we go out into it, when we allow ourselves to actually be present in it, when we can take the time to observe, really observe what it took, the beauty around us, I feel personally, it's what helps ground me in the reality of the situations. There's a much bigger, more beautiful world out there that as shitty as things may feel or be, there are choices that you can make to manage your stuff in your world, right? I find oftentimes that we lose hope because I think many of us are focused on trying to control these outer elements that we can't control, right? And really recognizing that the thing we have to manage, the thing we have to spend time nourishing and loving on and making sure it's spiritually fed and taken care of is you. And within that, you will find the tribe. You will find the people. The more truthful you are, you will find the people. It's like a lighthouse, a beacon, but if your light is out, they can't find you, right? And the understanding that blending is not belonging. So standing out and being brave enough to be ourselves, to speak our truth, will actually bring us closer to the people who want to be with us. And to me, hope lies in the understanding that you have the power to do. All of us do. You have the choice and the power. And if you can't see your way through it, there are so many resources. There's so many people that want to help. There really is. There's tons of people who want to help you, who want to see you shine and win. So really, there is no completely alone. You can feel that way, but it's a limiting belief to accept because there really are people out there.
Yeah, there definitely are. The feeling alone, even in a room full of people and all of that, that passes. Like feelings pass. Who knew? Like I always, when I feel like that, I'm like, I'll feel like this forever, but you don't.
Yeah.
Like feelings do pass.
Oh,
and
your first heartbreak, right? Your first real heartbreak as a teenager. Life was over.
Oh, absolutely.
You're like, what was his name?
Yeah, I know. Who knows? And I saw that you have on your website, that's one of your blog posts.
Yeah.
So I saw that. And we will have links for everything for Anjua in the show notes and on the website and everything else. Is there anything else that I should have asked you that we're going to be done? You'll be like, Lauren didn't ask me this.
No, not at all. I've enjoyed being here with you. You have a lovely energy. You yourself, my lady, are quite delicious. So I've really enjoyed talking to you and spending this time with you.
Yay. Thank you so much for being a guest today on 52 Weeks of Hope. I so enjoyed this myself.